Ruh-oh, it's the end of the world! Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, Scooby-Doo, roaming the globe in their lime green mystery machine. They've solved countless crimes and debunked dozens of sketchy supernatural shenanigans. But what if the horror was real? Something terrible has transformed our world, turning millions of people into hordes of monsters, and only 5 people, well, 4 people, and 1 mangy mutt, have the smarts, the skills, and the sheer crazy courage to stare down doomsday. Can these pesky kids and their canine companion, using every incredible contraption in their arsenal, defeat the evil that has overwhelmed planet Earth? We've got only one thing to say about that. Zoinks! Welcome everybody to another exciting episode, another edition of A Week in Geekdom here on YouTube. I am your host, Giovanni Menendez, and welcome guys to another installment. Yes, finally, I gave this book a shot and I was not disappointed. I had a blast reading it. Of course, I am talking about Scooby Apocalypse, part of that Hanna-Barbera reboot relaunch that was going on last year with DC Comics. As you know, there is the line for kiddies, and then there's this line of books which so far consists of Scooby Apocalypse, Future Quest, Wacky Raceland, The Flintstones, and the upcoming Snagglepuss comic. Now, Scooby Apocalypse, basically, if I could summarize this, you are taking the zombie apocalypse genre and mixing it with the Hanna-Barbera goofiness and producing something that actually has quite a lot of heart. If you don't know, this is a new take for adults on the Scooby franchise. I loved Scooby-Doo growing up, one of my favorite cartoons when I was a young kid, and I was so intrigued by the concept of these kids who are no longer kids. This is a very mature take on the characters. It doesn't go too far off the grim and gritty realism that other reboots strive to do. Instead, this is a more grounded take on its characters. Now, to summarize this as spoiler free as I can, basically Velma is working on this top secret project where they want to control the population through some nanite, and it all goes horribly wrong. Now, she isn't exactly at fault. There's more to her story, and she wants to expose the people responsible for what she thinks is a crime against humanity. Now, to do this, she will have to contact somebody else to do this, who ends up being Daphne and her best friend Fred. And if you're wondering, Shaggy does work at the same corporation as Velma at a lower clearance level. And if you're wondering as well, hey, where's Scooby on all of this? Scooby-Doo in this version is part of a Smart Dog Initiative program where they train all these dogs with high-tech equipment, accessing their genomes or whatnot. It's not really explained. Basically, they use this contraption here that you see on the cover right there to allow Scooby to talk, of course referencing the original cartoons where Scooby actually did talk, or so we're led to believe. They never really made that clear. Was it all in Shaggy's head? I don't know. That's neither here nor there. I'm talking about Scooby Apocalypse. Now, the covers, and most of the covers for the issues, are done by Jim Lee. This is actually pretty cool. However, my one main negative about this book, the one thing I actually really was annoyed by, are the artistic changes. It is done by Howard Porter. I don't know if I mentioned it, but is written by Keith Giffen, and I'll get into the writing in a little bit. The art on occasions will shift a little bit, and characters will look one way for a few pages, and then on the next few pages they look totally, or not totally, they look slightly different. And that, my friends, for an OCD person like myself, can get quite annoying. My gosh, man, when you've got characters that look as defined as they do, especially by the covers of such a talented artist like Jim Lee, then you expect a consistency going throughout the whole story. One issue they look a certain way, like so, and then it shifts tonally and everybody looks either off-center, they look kind of weird, derpy eyes, and just random little imperfections that just start to creep up as you read through the story. Now, that can get annoying if you love a good art on your comic book, and I'm probably making a fuss about it, but that's alright. It's just me nitpicking. Overall, this book is fantastic. The characters are written in a way where you know you're reading the characters that you grew up with from the 60s, but this is just a twisted up version, and especially if you like monsters and zombie apocalypse type stories, then you're gonna get a kick out of this. The characters all have their voices that are very reminiscent to the show. However, one of the main negatives that I've seen a lot of people criticize is the dialogue between Velma and Daphne. Look, I'll be honest with you, after 3 issues I was pretty annoyed as well. However, given the circumstances and given the fact that Velma is such a different character than what we are used to, I'll let this slip by. Basically, you have a character that is in charge of this super mega project that failed completely, and she's trying to find out why, while at the same time you get to know her a little bit better. And she doesn't like, social interaction. She's such a recluse, and she's so involved in her work that she doesn't really know how to express everything and how to talk to people and all that stuff. And that was one of the most surprising aspects of this book. I thought going in that all of these characters already knew each other, and I was in the wrong. These characters don't know about each other. They're just learning about each other. They are just, we are being introduced at the same time as they're being introduced to each other. Now, the book you might think is a parody, but at the end of the day, I found a lot of heart, especially when you read the issue involving Scooby's origin, if you will, or his backstory. That was actually surprisingly touching. It was a really emotional moment in the series. I was not expecting that at all. Of course, when you take a premise like Scooby-Doo and you're trying to do it a bit more mature and introduce all these mature themes and like sci-fi action and a little bit more dark, gritty, gruesome story, it can fall through the cracks, and you might end up parodying yourself, and people might not take it as serious. But I guarantee you guys, if you give it a shot, this book might surprise you. One of the other drawbacks of this book is that it can get a little bit too wordy for its own good, considering this is a zombie apocalypse story and you want to see some action involved, or some ghost hunting, if you will, like the old days. For the first 2 or 3 issues, I was a tiny little bit bored, but I still kept going in there because I love these characters. Now, that might deter some readers out there, but for me, it was just more incentive to keep going and find out what the hell was going on. Now, I could see some of you guys saying, but hey, if it's a little bit too wordy, why did you like it so much? I think it's just the fact that, you get to see these characters in a brand new light. I love the hipster Buddhist take on Shaggy. That's awesome. I love Fred. I hated him growing up, but this time I'm actually quite fond of him. He's not as annoying as I would have thought, considering the career choice. Daphne, of course, in her righteousness, I know that people don't like her in this book, but in her righteousness, she does have a point, and they all have a natural reaction to what's going on. Velma is actually pretty interesting. We get a whole issue devoted to her origin story, and I thought her origin was pretty interesting. I don't think we've ever had an origin story for one of these guys in such a in-depth manner. But after reading that, you're like, I sort of get behind you and why you are acting this way. And overall, yeah, like I said, great writing, especially if you like your characters from the olden days. Now they're a little bit more mature, a little bit more adult, and the way they interact with each other is pretty surprising, considering it is their first time meeting each other. As for some negatives, like I pointed out, the slightly tonal shifts in the drawings can get a little annoying, and the writing at the beginning can get a little messy because it is so wordy and you just want to see what the heck is going on if the book is titled Scooby Apocalypse. So yeah, overall a fun, great read. I started my journey with the new Hanna-Barbera, the light of comics, if you will. Next up, I will be reviewing for you guys Future Quest, so stay tuned for that. And as always, you can like and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. You can hit the notification bell as well, so you know when new videos are coming up. As always, guys, follow me on your favorite social media platform, from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and many more. Just type A Week in Geekdom and I'm there for you guys. Alright, I gotta go. I got more stuff to read, review, and just geek out over, so I will catch you on our next episode. I mean, how great is it that Francis Manapul drew a cover of Scooby Apocalypse. Easily my favorite cover, even though it's a variant.